you have to learn how to make money grow. Could you imagine if the first 10 years of work, we're not worried about making it to executive vice president, we're worried about creating streams of income? Because when we become adults, we become so responsible, we forget how to dream.
Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Vanacker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Mo, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Mo, you have crafted a lifestyle you don't need a vacation from. Your story combines structure from your military and corporate careers with a passion for freedom and exploration. Tell us about where your journey started and what led you to become a real estate investor.
Yeah, it's loaded. Thank you for that. So my journey started when, listen, the first culminating thing for me when I was 15, and I've said this, and I think I posted on this a lot. My family is a Haitian immigrant family. So like you, I'm a French speaker. I grew up born in New York, raised in Boston. Now I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. So I'm all city kid, all that. And my father had the wherewithal, which was the best decision he ever made for me, the wherewithal to send me to France when I was 15 years old. It was with the family of the exchange student that had stayed with me the previous summer. Francois, my friend Matthew's father, decided to drive us around the country for 30 days, change my life, change the trajectory of my then short life. In that, like you know, being a person of many cultures, I was just exposed to things that I would never think about or know about as an inner city kid. Everything from French food to French wine to the culture, the feeling of it, interacting with girls, et cetera, et cetera. It just showed me that the world was a lot bigger than Boston. Okay. That was the first catalyst. And then the second catalyst, which ties to the real estate thing a little bit, but I'll explain, was that I found a financial book when I was 21. The book was called Personal Finance for Dummies, which is a series of books. And in that book, there was a passage on the concept of passive income, which talked about the fact that it was generating income devoid of your need to physically be somewhere. And my then 21-year-old brain put together that, look, if I could generate passive income, then I could have time. And if I could have time, then I could go have more of those experiences and emotions that I had when I was 15. And that's when it all clicked. Like anything you're sensing from me on social media was because my then probably more formulated around age 23, but my then young 20-year-old self kind of figured out that, like, no, man, life is not necessarily money. It is your ability to have experiences and the emotions that come from experiences. I found passive income, which eventually led me to real estate. And the whole premise was never money. I have never fundamentally chased money, although I've made some mistakes and paid the price. But fundamentally, I was never chasing money. I was always chasing experiences and relationships and filling my life book and what have you. So that's just what started the journey, and why I now say, after crafting my lifestyle, I have one that I don't need a vacation from. I haven't taken vacation in almost a decade in reality. My life doesn't require it, right? I go where I want, I do what I want. And, you know, I'm grateful to my young 20-year-old self for figuring it all out.
That's totally awesome and very inspiring.
Thank you.
And when you look back, when you started investing in real estate, what was your mindset at the beginning of the journey? And how has your mindset evolved over time?
Well, I was young. This is why, I mean, I jokingly say it, and it used to get me emotional, but I've said it so much that I'm prepped to not be emotional. But I'm so grateful to 23-year-old me, because his mindset at the time was as follows. I went out and I bought a place to live because I had just started working for my company called Accenture. Just a place to live. Like I didn't want to rent. I bought a place to live. And I was very fortunate that it was at the beginning of the boom cycle of real estate in the early 2000s. And when I bought it and closed on it in August of 2001, sometime in 2002, the same floor plan, because it was a condo, the same floor plan in the next building sold for $30,000 more. And that confused me. I was very confused by that. So I called my father, like I always did for everything, like I still do. I said, Dad, what is this? And he said, you made $30,000. And I said, what? And he explained it to me. And that's what keyed me into. Now, here's the mindset. That's what keyed me in, because in my mind, my family wasn't poor, but we didn't have a lot, but we had a solid family foundation. My parents were educators. We didn't have a ton of money. But when my father said I made $30,000, that struck me as somebody's salary. It's like, so I made someone's salary in a transaction. So my young self went to the library. That's what we had back then, and still do today. I still go to libraries. I went to the business aisle. I facetiously talk about aisle 6 of the Fairfax County Library in Kingstown, Alexandria, Virginia. And I just started reading business and real estate books. And by the end of 2002 into 2003, I had bought 10 more places. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm very good at just doing and course correcting along the way. But my then thought process was, if I can get more of these, and then if I can start to pay them off over time, because a realtor told me that, this realtor I started working with convinced me, don't buy the big property, Maurice, buy these small ones and then use your amazing salary from work to pay them off over the years. You'll create a pension. I did that. So that was the mindset. I just started buying as many as I could. So that was 2002. By 2014, I had bought 35. I sold some that had appreciated, paid off other ones, and then systematically used my paycheck to pay down anything that was left. And by 2014, I had 18 paid off places, paying $13,000 a month or $160,000 a year. I was free. Technically, I was free, right? And okay, so that was the original mindset. I just wanted the freedom. But when you have enough money to cover your basic needs, you quickly find out that life is not about money in the first place. It's about those experiences and relationships and things of that nature. I liked working. I liked my company. I liked being a police officer. I liked being in the military. I liked investing in restaurants. I liked traveling the world. People keep asking me, why didn't I quit work? But that's not life. You want the experiences, the relationships, the skill set that you get. So everything has evolved. And now when I do the big real estate deals that I do, which can be 20 million, 30 million, $40 million deals, it's not necessarily for my own financial freedom. It's to help people get their own version of financial freedom faster than I did. So that was the mindset when I began, was just, wow, I did something. I made $30,000. I want to do this more. I want my freedom. And then it evolved to trying to help other people get their freedom too.
And I'm curious, when you're looking at the real estate market, particularly with a lot of fluctuations that have
Yeah.
happened over the years, I mean, it's normal, like any economic cycle, the real estate world also has highs and lows. Um, are you at this point focusing more on some of the investments that are more in the private, if you wish, housing market, or it's more the industrial? Like, help us understand a little bit more
Yeah.
the details behind the specific opportunities that you feel some of our listeners could potentially explore, if this is an area or an avenue where they may be interested to look at.
Anybody who asks me, so I've now been in real estate. I'm almost finishing my third decade of real estate. Okay. And what I tell people when people ask me about, Mo, I want to get into real estate. Can you help me get into real estate? My first question and response is, what's the goal? Real estate is goal specific. So for someone like me, owning 2,000 apartments, and generally all I do is residential, but there's a couple of commercial things that I do. But owning 2,000 apartments makes sense because I'm investing with other people to help them get their financial freedom. And I also develop real estate in the Mediterranean, in Cyprus, the country of Cyprus. That is not money related. That is lifestyle related. It's something that I wanted to do to change my lifestyle from East Coast US into a Mediterranean type of lifestyle. But I didn't want to be the American guy who just shows up and goes to the restaurant and all. I wanted to be part of the community. So I focus primarily on residential real estate. And what I tell people in response to your question is, like, it's goal specific. It's totally goal specific. There are some people who might buy, and this is a true story, my friend bought 3 condos when we were working together at Accenture. I was helping him, like advising him a little bit. And he bought 3 luxury ones. And I was like, stop. Because if you pay these luxury things off over time, you're going to create a little pension for yourself, work for Accenture for 10, 15 years, and you'll be good. And what ended up happening with him, he bought 4, he sold 1, he paid off 1 with the equity that he sold, and the other 2 he paid off over the years from his salary. He lives in Thailand now. He doesn't work. Well, he works, but he works as a bartender. Last I talked with him, he just did it his way. For other people, the goal might be, look, I want to buy 30 of these things, not necessarily for money, but I want to learn business. I want to learn the skill set of doing due diligence on an investment and running it from beginning to end. So then there's a specific kind of real estate for that. And then for what I do now is syndication, which is we'll buy something for 35 million. I'll raise 17 million from investors. I'll get the rest from a lending institution. I'll have a business plan that says we're going to buy the property, take this invested dollars, improve the quality of life for the residents, which allows us to raise the rent nominally. I don't gouge people, not interested in the luxury market. I'm interested in affordable housing. But we can still give them a good quality of life while making a return for investors. Okay, so that's a different kind of real estate. Like that's goal specific to me, trying to give back to community plus trying to help investors get what they want and stuff. So yeah, real estate is one of those things that is goal specific, but I will say now, almost finishing my 3rd decade in it, the thing that's been the most powerful financially, because I know people care about financially, is the tax benefits by far. The tax code is written to encourage investment and development. It's not a punitive document. 90% of the tax code is to get someone like me to raise money with someone like you to go out and develop this country or develop the world. That's how it's written. I'm not an accountant, right? But I pay really good ones. You have to get support to understand it. If not, the way the tax system works, taxes are our biggest expense in life. And what I've been able to do is mitigate that throughout 20 years of professional life and reinvest it. And do it again, and reinvest it, and do it again. So let's say my net worth or cash flow or my ability to impact community has been compounded because the government is getting less of my money because the government wants me to go out and build or invest in, improve affordable housing and things of that nature. Again, another goal, right? It's goal specific. So I just want to give you that feedback.
Fantastic. You spoke about being goal specific, and in some of the podcasts that you've done and I've had the pleasure of listening to, you talk about encouraging individuals to define their dream a day.
Yeah.
Can you talk to our audience, a little bit more about that? And once you start there, what are some other key next steps that will get you closer to that freedom?
Thank you for asking that. And I know we just talked about real estate kind of in depth, but I want to make it clear. My name is Mo. I happen to be a real estate investor. Real estate does not drive my life. It is not my life. It is something that I use to drive life. And relative to what you're saying about the perfect day, what I'm big on is designing life. I've been that way for a very long time. I coach people in lifestyle design. So obviously my platform is called Try Life On. So it's trylifeon.com. It's specific to me being approached 3 years ago by someone on LinkedIn and asking me to coach them how I created this very mobile, no footprint life where I live around the world. I get up and go whenever I want, but I'm running all these businesses and I virtualize my mail and how do I manage my kids? I was like, oh, okay, I'll help. And I took everything that I knew and all of my interest in lifestyle design, which actually started with the book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and culminated with a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor, and what did he have to live for if his mom, dad, sister, cousin, auntie, uncle, everybody was gone? He had nothing. He couldn't figure out his purpose. So when I coach in lifestyle design, it's around 5 freedoms: time freedom, financial freedom, which we just talked about, location freedom, which has nothing to do with travel. It has everything to do with mobility, your ability to get to an opportunity or a person when you need to. Freedom to execute your purpose, hence why I became a police officer at age 33 while still being an executive for my company. It was a purpose. I needed to do it. And freedom to build meaningful relationships. To your point, if somebody wants to get into real estate, and let's say they work in fashion. They need freedom and mental space to connect with someone like a Maurice, who's been involved with 250 million of it in the last 3 years. If you are stuck in the four walls of your corporate entity all the time, then you are limited to the knowledge in those four walls. So it's all around those five freedoms, excuse me. But the way that I get people to start thinking about a design life is I ask them to write their perfect day. I ask them to do what organically happened to me when I was 15. What are the what is the emotions that you want to have in life on a day to day? Where do you want to be? What does it smell like? What do you hear? Is it the ocean? Are you up in the mountains? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? Do you want to feel giddy when you wake up? Do you want to be involved in sport? Like, what is it? What is the thing that you think the source, God, faith, or whatever you do or don't believe in put you on this planet to do? What is that? Because when we become adults, we become so responsible, we forget how to dream. And in a lot of cases, for the 300 plus people that I've been involved in coaching, I'd say 60, 70% of them, when they start engaging on the conversation about their perfect day and what they want out of life, start crying because they forgot. We forgot that we want to feel sand under our feet. We forgot that we don't want to feel the pressure of 39 clients calling us all the time. We forgot that it's really hard to be parents. And sometimes 49-year-old me wants to be a kid too. And I don't know. I was just outside throwing the ball with my kid, right, on a Friday. I like that. But I also like being in the Mediterranean, in the Eastern Mediterranean, and I feel at home there. That's part of my perfect day. So we start with the perfect day. We create goals around those five freedoms. There's just blockers to goals. And the work is create the actions that get rid of the blockers. If you get rid of the blockers, then conceivably you hit the goals. If you hit the goals, then conceivably you have the framework by which you live your perfect day. It won't happen all the time, but you have the framework for it. And that's the work. And that's how I have a framework for a lifestyle that I do not need a vacation from.
And when you're talking about blockers, what have been some of the biggest obstacles that you believe are keeping people away from experiencing more freedom and joy in their everyday lives?
I'll give you two intangible blockers and then one tangible, because the tangible one is an obvious one. Money, okay? But I'll get back to the money thing in a second because it's not true. The biggest blocker by far, and I have worked with people who, just as a sake of measure, I've worked with people who are CEOs worth 50 million, are artists, starving artists, our teachers, our doctor. It doesn't matter. The biggest blocker by far is mindset. By far. Because 20 to 30 years of formal education that you and I have had, that school told us that we're supposed to do this. Johnny, sit down. Like I say this all the time, and I'll say it here. It's important. We're in kindergarten. We're creative. We dream. We know how to dream as kids. We do. We eat glue. We throw paint on the walls. We run around with scissors in our hands. We don't care. We're the princess. We're the king. We're the prince. We know how to dream. We get into grade school. Compliance kicks in. Johnny, sit down. Take this permission slip home to your mom, etc. We get into high school and college, and I think our education system kills us. Not on purpose, but what's happening in my mind is they're teaching us to compete with each other. Who's going to be in the AP classes? Who's going to get the A? If you got the B, you didn't do as good as the person who got the A. Who's going to be the MVP of the soccer team? Who's going to be the prom king? Who's going to be the prom queen? And the biggest one is who's going to go to the Ivy League school? Who's going to go to Harvard? But who's going to go to the community college? Who's going to get the scholarship? But who's going to have to struggle with money? And that translates into college. We continue to compete, and it translates into the work world where you and I are now competing to be the executive vice president of the marketing department. So we'll stay in that building from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because the opinion of our bosses starts to matter. It does, right? So I think that's the biggest mindset issue is people are following status quo unconsciously because that's societal versions of success that you and I were taught. But if you ask me now, my version of success was not to be promoted like the societal thing. For example, when I was at my company, I declined promotion process to partner 4 times. I didn't want it, nor did I need it because I was investing in real estate in the outside. So that's the number one thing is mindset. The second thing is the opinion of peers, coworkers, neighbors, and family members. Always putting their fears on you. The thing that I got right in my journey of 25 years of being an exec, 15 years of being a police officer, 22 years being in the military, and all the other crazy stuff that I did, I didn't tell a lot of people. You see me talking about it on LinkedIn now, well after the fact. Because if you think about it, if I was a police officer at night and an executive during the day, if I was tired and didn't go to work and everybody knew, then then they would say, well, he's not here. He was probably tired from patrolling last night. I didn't tell anybody, my family and maybe my significant other and my kids. That's it, right? So those are the two biggest blockers from a mindset perspective. And then obviously the third tangible one is money. But there's this impression that we need $20 million to go be who it is that we want to be, and we don't. What you need is enough passive, maybe sometimes virtual income, but I'll come back to virtual. What you need is enough passive income to cover your basic needs. My basic needs was $6,000. So once I got over the $6,000 hump, technically I was free. But we're so focused on I need to be a millionaire, or I need to do what Instagram tells me and have 10 million in the bank to be free. No, you don't. You just got to cover your basic needs, especially with passive income. Now, lastly, I said the thing about virtual income, and the reason I always caveat virtual income is because there's going to come a day, it's coming. You're either going to get tired of what you do, your job is going to tell you, thank you, we don't need you anymore, or you're just going to age out. So buying things like stocks, bonds, real estate, etc., that generate income for you, or starting a business or intellectual property. I was in a couple of movies. I used to act in a couple of movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And I still get residual income from it like 10 years later. That income, passive income, just frees you, right? But the notion that we need 20 million to be free is ridiculous. So that would be the three blockers that I would point out. Total mindset. I help people rewire. And then opinions of other people, because people get scared. And then the money aspect, which is easily solvable when you understand the semantics of it.
And thinking about your son that you mentioned,
Mm,
who's 11 years old, what
yeah.
values are you instilling in him as he's growing and will reach a point where he's going to have to make a decision in terms of what he does professionally?
Yeah.
What advice would you be giving him in order to leverage all the wisdom and insights you have gained from your own experience?
Yeah, I do it frequently. And there's three things that my two boys are responsible for. One, they got to be happy. We are, it's almost like that partner thing that I told you. There's nothing wrong with being a partner at a firm or whatever, but it wasn't my joy. It wasn't my joy. I'm relatively successful, success is relative to the person, right? I have to tell you, after 27, 28 years of professional life, and I'm 49 years old now, I will tell you that there is no there. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to land anywhere. There is no pinnacle. There's no pinnacle. It's all false. So if you don't do the things that genuinely make you happy, you're wasting a lot of life. So the number one thing is for my boys, you have to be happy. I want you to do things that make you happy. One. Two, I don't need you to be great. I need you to be good. I need you to be kind. I need you to be kind to your neighbor. I need you to hold the door. I need you to be respectful of people. I need you to have empathy. I need you to pick up litter if it's possible and throw it away, and treat Mama Nature really, really well. You don't have to be Obama. You don't have to be a king. You don't have to be, I don't know, the president. Just be good. Okay. So let's take all that dumb pressure off. It's unnecessary. All right. And then lastly, you have to learn how to make money grow. The confidence that I have had over the years is because nobody owned me. I mean that with all due respect. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't appreciate my company or my police department or the military that I served with. But what I'm suggesting is, no matter what happened, because I was economically empowered, and I don't mean with tens of millions, I mean I had enough, a few thousand coming in a month, that my needs were always covered. Because I had that, I've always had life options. Because I've had that, I could sit with you as a CEO or a four-star general or whoever and have no problems with confidence at all. I knew who I was the entire time. Learning how to make money grow means you make $1, and I expect you to take that dollar, do something with it such that in a few years, 2 or 3 friends will come back with it. You learn that skill set, okay? Instead of the blindly climbing the ladder or getting titles thing that we do, you learn that skill set, learn how to make money grow, and then go back to point one and point two of being happy and being good to people. Like, go do things that make you happy and go be good to people. That's the direction that I have for my kids. I have very high expectations for them. They know it. And I'm proud that I've kind of gotten to that point where it's like, there's no destination. It's just life, right? Like everyone, I understand going to work to make money to support your family. 1,000%, it's necessary, and I'm a hard worker too, as are my parents who were 35-year educators and stuff. There's no destination. It's just a journey, right? So get to a point where you are free, especially economically, and go be happy. Do things that make you happy, and be kind to the rest of the world, man, because we all need each other.
It's all about the journey. I fully agree. And that's what you often see in certain individuals that may set certain targets. They reach those targets and they feel the sense of emptiness.
Yes.
And you're like, where did I go wrong? I thought that this would be the pinnacle of my happiness and all my problems. And the reality is that it's not the case.
That goes back to what I said about formal education and family upbringing.
Yes.
You got to make it to the A. You got to get to the Ivy League school. You got to get to the MVP. You gotta. School does this thing that makes us believe that there's one answer to every question. There's not. There's infinite answers to every question in life. Infinite. And if we understood that, then the pressure would come off. Right? So I don't know. We need school. I'm a big proponent of formal education. It's necessary. But the manner in which we're still doing it to crank out employees is disastrous, because what it's doing, people will always be employees. That's okay. I was an employee happily for 25 years, but I leveraged it. I leveraged it the entire way, where what's happening with most people is they are unconsciously just accepting it. And I think that that's something that needs to change. I hope people hear that. There's a joke that the movie The Matrix, it's not a movie, it's a documentary, and it kind of is. It kind of is. So I am proof positive that you can leverage, all that nonsense to build lifestyle for yourself.
And Mo, how did you actually manage in 24 hours to do everything that you have shared, have, certain responsibilities during the day, because, being a parent, being a police in the evening? Um, did you sleep? Just tell us about the lifestyle reality that came with that.
So in my Try Life On coaching, there is a principle, and there's like 25 principles I go over from a mindset perspective to get people to shift and things of that nature. And one of them is the notion that life is to be practiced. As I told you, there is no destination. It's something that you practice. So if I live between Maryland and Lebanon, which I do right now, there are times every other week in general where, when school's in session, I will leave Beirut on a Sunday, fly to Jordan, get the overnight flight to DC, arrive Monday at 6:30. I'm home by 7:30, and at 8:30 I'm taking my son to school. So I commute from the Mideast to get my son to school. I practiced it. I'm really good at it. It's the same notion of what I was doing with all those careers. It's not that I was perfect at it. Trust me. I used about the sleeping, man. I used paid time off strategically when I was exhausted. Sometimes I would take leave without pay. Sometimes I would go on military leave to drop everything and just go do military. I just got very strategic about what I was doing. But let me run down a day for you. It was, let's say, 8 a.m. I'll go 9 a.m. 9 a.m. I'm at the office doing consulting stuff, probably in DC, sometimes virtual, sometimes I'm traveling for it. But if I'm in the area, I was at the office, probably getting on a train by 4, trying to slide out a little bit early, but getting on the train by 4 or 5. I'd get home, get to my then one son, Jalen, who's the oldest, do homework with him, cook for him, and then probably by 7:30 or 8, no, probably by 7, I'm lying down for an hour to get an hour of sleep, to then wake up at 8 to put on my uniform to be at roll call by 8:30 p.m. I would go have dinner dinner with the fellas and the ladies on my shift. We would break dinner probably about 10:30, and then we would hump it, out on the street till like 2:30 in the morning. Prior, if calls were going on, then I was going all night. But if calls weren't going on, then I was probably pulling the car into somewhere and leaning my head back and trying to get 20-minute catnap here, 20-minute catnap there. I would finish up at 6:30, be home by 6:30, lie down for an hour, get in the shower, throw on my Accenture stuff, run to court for the police department. Usually my cases were very tight, so the state's attorneys didn't need me for a lot. But the court was right next to the metro. So I would go into court, sign in, do what I got to do, walk out, get on the metro, go back to Accenture. It was a rhythm. I practiced it. I got really, really good at it. And what I had to do, though, yes, for my clients, but more so for my shift mates in my police department, I was responsible for their safety and for the safety of the public. So if I was overly tired, because there was periods of 48 hours, I didn't really sleep a lot. And I was okay with that. I got used to it. It's amazing what biologically and physiologically your body will do once it gets used to it. I was used to it. But so that was a day in a life. And that didn't even include like calls for real estate and dealing with my kids and my mom and dad and my significant other, who, by the way, I have 2 kids and they have 2 different moms, and both of them were with me during the police years. And without them, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't. I love them. I love them dearly, both of them, and family in general, and then the friends that supported me and the very few people on my police shift who knew I was doing all that stuff in the background. I kept it quiet from the police department too, right? So I want to get across this notion that people are like, I can't do that. There's not enough time. Really? Are you sure? Because I was still lifting weights. I was still doing 3 careers actually. I was still investing in real estate, still traveling the world. I used all the tools available: leave, PTO, coming in late, talking to my sergeant, You create a rhythm. And if your why is strong enough, and my why is to fill my life book, to do good things for people, to give back to community, then you will find a way. So when people tell me I don't have time, I kind of look at them and I'm like, it's not that you don't have time, it's that you lack commitment to it. You got to be committed. And I was committed. I'm still committed.
How is the intensity of your life today in comparison to those days? and,
You
and
know,
and how has the level of joy evolved as a result of that change?
man, your Dr. Vanacker, your question could not be more on time. Wow, because I talked about this morning. I'll tell you, I'm 49 years old, okay? I told you I've done, I don't know, 250 million of real estate in the last 3-4 years. I've traveled back and forth to Lebanon alone 60 times in the last 3 years. I'm raising my 11-year-old where I am now. I retired from Accenture, the police department, in my military service in the past 3 years. It was a lot of changing. And what has happened to me, I want people to hear this. This is important because Instagram will never tell you this, and I will. I have mentors who are in their 60s, and I'm watching them. And what I learned from them is that they, quote unquote, got out too late, 15 years too late. I can continue on my rhythm, if you will, right? And create. But doubling my net worth is not going to make me doubly happy. In fact, what seems to be making me more happy nowadays is less complexity. I'm getting rid of things. I've gotten rid of junk. I've gotten rid of businesses. I've not gotten rid of, but just separated myself. I've detached. I have detached myself from a lot of things. I've detached myself from identities: police, federal agent, military, senior executive. I'm still real estate, but I'm starting to detach. I feel it. I can feel it in my gut. And the reason is because if we're on this planet, I am a man of faith, and if we're on this planet to have an experience, and for my listenings of Wayne Dyer, who I like a lot, he always talks about we are spiritual creatures having a human experience. Okay, but if we're having a human experience and the average life 80 years, the average lifespan is 28,000 years, then I just turned 49 2 weeks ago. I have 10,500 and change left in somewhere in there. I want to live. I want to feel. I want to go back to when I was 15 years old and like, oh my God, I didn't know food could taste like that. But one of my joys right now is every time I'm in Lebanon or somewhere in the Mediterranean, dinner's always like 3 hours. I love it. and we drink way too much wine, and then the next morning at the gym I curse myself out, but I go anyway, right? I want it. So that was a long way of saying to you, I am downshifting. I have downshifted a ton. I do not believe I will do massive real estate deals again unless it is purposeful to some societal goal, or it happens to be with my existing 6 or 7 business partners on the real estate side. Like, I will do something with them, but I will not raise investor dollars anymore, because by the time 5 years from now, I will have returned, let's say, the $150 million of investor money that I'm tied to, and I want to. It's time. And here I am, 49 years old, in the best shape of my life. I've been on a fitness journey, and I lost 35 pounds in 2.5 years. I got back to lifting weights. I lift more than I ever did when I was in college. I'm deadlifting almost 500 pounds, and I'm just enjoying myself. But when I look at my calendar, there's nothing there. And the reason I laughed when you asked me the question, or I paused, is because I was talking to my friend Andrea today, who's in Spain, and I asked her, I was telling her, I find myself struggling with idleness. My son was out last night, so he wasn't with me for the night. I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have anywhere to go. And I had to learn, I'm learning how to just be, to not be the Maurice of old, to just, one last thing. This is really funny. So I bought this house that I'm sitting in right now. It's this old farmhouse and stuff that's been renovated. I have a lot of seasonal flowers in the front of the house. There's this black and yellow bird that always comes to my house because he or she likes these flowers. He's always there. It's always there. But I notice it because I have time, and I'm noticing the beauty of the world. So when you're talking about my intensity for business has gone way down. My intensity for impacting people has gone way up. And my intensity for appreciating this planet and nature and what it's truly giving to us, and the fact that I don't want to wait till 60, 70, 80 to realize it, I'm just living. I am living so intentionally. And it's almost like I'm starting over.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it feels good. And I know, I mean, I did a lot of work. I earned it, and I earned the privilege and stuff, but we're not taking anything with us. Please enjoy it as you go. Like, and that's why I never left work at that time. I was enjoying the experience, right? Now I want to enjoy different kinds of experiences, and that's not necessarily building businesses.
Thank you. I mean, it's so beautiful, and actually, it almost resembles how I look at life today.
Yeah,
And the shift on my side was more with a 9-hour brain operation that I had during the COVID times, that
you
truly
did.
shifted my life reality. And you realize that the most important thing that matters is time,
Yes.
time that we have to
Wow.
savor each moment, time with those that we love. And I have made a complete shift as well. And that's why I created 1 million years of joy as a result of that crazy experience
Yeah.
that led me to rethink everything and the intensity that I was living through. And I was asking myself, what really matters? And we have a tendency to make life so complex. And I said, at the end of the day, all that matters is joy, the joy that we can experience and the joy that we can bring into this world through whatever gifts we have.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. And whether you call it joy or something else, but I go back to what I told you in the beginning, which was, I don't even think it's places or people. It's the emotions that those places or people give you. It's the emotions that the actions that you take who impact someone it gives you. It makes you feel good and what have you. I think I am after joy, which is just an emotion. I want more emotion, less stuff. The more I get rid of, the happier I get. The more I impact people, the happier I get. The more business I do, the more I'm like, I'm wasting time, because it's not the net of it, unless that business is truly impacting people's lives, like affordable housing. But the net of it, oh, I made more money. To what end? How long? How much more do you need to actually access this planet the way you are supposed to? And for most people, it's a few thousand a month. It's not millions, but we're getting it twisted with, the Instagram definitions and all that. And I am not getting it twisted. I am proud to say that before my 50th birthday, I'm just like unplugging.
I love it. And I love the clarity that you have.
Thank you.
So, since you have traveled to
Yeah.
more than 100 countries, which
Yeah.
I feel it's totally awesome. So, we resemble ourselves
Yeah.
also in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest lessons that you have learned about joy from traveling to over 100 countries? And how has that shaped the way you approach business and life?
To be clear, so I know my numbers kind of. So I just hit country 99, which was Norway. And when I say I've been to a country, I mean like meaningful interaction in a country. I'm not a tourist. I don't do touristy things at all. I want meaningful interaction with the taxi driver, with the grocery store owner, with the neighbor of the Airbnb. Like I really lean into just culture in general. I'm so I'm so I felt a bit of emotion go through me right there. I am so happy and blessed that I found the world. If not, I remember being 14 before I went on that trip, and I was very fixated on. I got my high school. This is my high school football T-shirt that I'm still very attuned to, but I was very fixated on making it to the NFL. Very fixated. I was fixated on money. I was fixated on symbols of wealth. And fortunately, my father sends me on that trip, and it just opens my eyes to the fact that the world has so much to offer. Now, there are beautiful people across the United States. There are beautiful people across Canada. There are beautiful people everywhere. The difference when you go to a place like Romania or Lebanon, where I live, or one of my favorite countries is Turkey, which changed my life. The difference is that the socioeconomic issues in those countries are different. The language is different. The culture is different. The air kind of smells different. The people talk different. What it does is it forces your brain to think different. You're in the beginner's mindset constantly, where a lot of people get stuck in this rat race feeling of, I do the same thing every day over and over. What I learned when I was in corporate and declined roles in my federal government practice in favor of working in Finland, Sweden, Norway, Nigeria, Spain. And they told me, you're not going to get promoted if you take these roles. And I was like, cool, I'm going anyway, right? We need that feeling. It gave me that feeling of I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly evolving. And the other thing that it did for me was gave me empathy. I remember in my young 20s when I would spend a lot of time in Brazil, and I think between the age of 23 and 28, I went to Brazil like 40 times. And I remember how family of friends that I had would work and they would make the equivalent of $300 for the week or something. And it was all so they could go churrasco at the end of the week. They just want to cook out. And I felt like, why is everybody so happy? Everybody's so happy. People, like, happiness is so relative. The Western culture pushes consumption, clothes, cars, diamonds. Like, it's just out of whack. Had I not found the world, had my father not done that, I'm not this level-headed person that I sense that I am. I don't know if I am, but I sense that I am, and I give the world credit for that. And I'm I'm hyper grateful. I think the emotion that you're seeing in me, and the reason I'm having those kinds of emotions nowadays in my life, is because I reflect back on everything that has given me. It's not, hey, listen. When I was in corporate, I would leave DC on a Wednesday night, fly to Izmir, Turkey, with a book, sit by the Aegean Sea, work remotely Thursday, Friday. Sunday, I would take a plane back and be in the office by Monday. I would just fly to Turkey to read a book. And I did it like 40 times. Like, nobody knew. And it was the emotions that it gave me and the friendships that it gave me and the life experience. And then lastly, I know I'm long winded, but lastly, I developed such an empathy for people that when I did do things as a federal agent or as a midnight patrol officer that required me to break heads and get into fights and or have conversations, I knew that there may be a cultural difference that is blocking our communication. Or Ethiopians in my community don't like to call 911 because there's a certain stigma to it. So they like to have a personal relationship with a police officer and call him on his cell and be like, hey, I need help. The world gave that to me. The world has given me so much. It's why I do so much philanthropy work now, because I got to find ways to repay it. That's how it's affected me.
How beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. If you had to create a recipe for joy, what three ingredients would be essential, especially as it relates to bringing more joy and harmony into our world?
The first one would be empathy. Empathy's got to be which is another form of love, but I will say empathy first. And the reason why I say that is exactly because of the description that I just gave you, which was very long, but very necessary. People are different. People are different. You and I, before this recording, I was like, what do you mean you're in Montreal? Your accent sounds totally different to me. You can't be from Montreal, right? But I pick up on that because of my travels, right? I wish the world would have empathy for each other and understand that we are different. Like somebody might look at me and be like, that's that American dude, the way I talk. But what people don't realize about me is I had an accent through age 8. It just dropped over the years. I was speaking Haitian Creole and French my whole life, and people don't know what I went through. People, they think I'm, I don't know, like military dude only, but no, I'm much more than that. We need to have more empathy for each other. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I wish for people that they would stop defaulting to other people's version of success and focus on their own. The example I'm going to use for you is, again, there's nothing wrong with being a partner at a firm, especially if that's your why, and I respect that. But I have a lot of partners and corporate types and people who reach out to me and they're like, how did you do what you did? And I said, well, you remember when everybody was saying after 22 years that I wasn't a partner, what was wrong with me? Everyone was like, what's wrong with him? Like, he's still a senior manager because I got promoted to senior manager in 2013. And, by 2017, I should have been a partner. And I was like, no, I don't want to go on the partner route. I don't want to go on the partner route. When people ask me that question of what's wrong with you? Why are you not a partner? I said, oh, it's good. I just wasn't chasing your version of success. I was chasing my own version, which was to take those 2 paychecks and systematically invest them and use my corporate entity to do well and execute the mission, but also execute my own mission of having experiences around the world and building skills and things of that nature. But it is very hard for people to put down other people's versions of success because 20 to 30 years of formal education and societal norms is telling you what success is. You got to work at Google. You got to be the general counsel. You got to be this. You got to be that. The funny thing is all the people saying that and getting into your head about what you're supposed to be, nobody cares 5 years later. So you're just left with your decisions. So I wish, or number 2 for making it all better after empathy would be people really grabbing on to their own version of success and going after that. AKA how I was able to have a day-to-day schedule like that. You could tell that was my version and I wasn't willing to quit on it. And then the last piece, give it to my kids, I'll give it to the rest of the world. Learn how to make money grow. Here's the formula. We go to work, we get the degree, we go to work, we chase these titles, and then you'll be okay. No. Go to school, get the degree if you want. I don't think it's necessary nowadays, but I do want my kids. My oldest went to college, and my young son knows that I'm not going to force him, but if he wants to go, he can go. Get the degree. That's fine. Then use that amazing degree to get a job and get a wonderful salary. Great. Then for the first 10 years of your getting that salary, systematically invest and turn that salary into something that creates income. Could you imagine if the first 10 years of work we're not worried about making it to executive vice president. We're worried about creating streams of income. And it's not to leave work, because society needs employees. We need police officers. We need people running the tech firms. We need it. It's so people have life options. It's so they have the option to leave, like I had the option to leave in 2014, but decided to stay because I liked having impact with people. So those will be my three things: empathy, following your own version of success, and man, financial self-education to learn how to make money grow. It just puts you in this position of power that I can't quite describe it, having it when you have economic empowerment like that, and you can walk around and just know you're untouchable except for your own morals and values, right? It's a good feeling.
That recipe is beautiful and I absolutely love it. And I'm so grateful for everything you have shared. It's been a true joy to speak with you today.
Pleasure.
And how can people reach out to you if they're
Yeah.
interested?
So I mentioned my platform, Try Life On. So just go to trylifeon.com. It is, yes, it's a coaching platform, but it's actually morphing much more into a thought leadership platform about life, about life's design, about money, real estate, all those freedoms, financial, time, location. So trylifeon.com. My email address is maurice@trylifeon.com. I respond to everybody. I have the Try Life On podcast, and I appreciate a listen from folks. I am heavily active on LinkedIn, heavily. So folks can find me on LinkedIn, just Maurice Philogène. And then just shout out to the stuff that I do in real estate, Quattro Capital. The website is the Quattro Way, WAY.com, and folks can find me there as well. And I have been on Instagram, and all of a sudden, since I left Instagram about 8 months ago, my followership has skyrocketed. I don't know, but I'm on somewhat of an information social media diet now, so I don't really go out there and look too much, but I will respond to messages there if that's their platform of choice.
Okay. Well, Maurice, once again, a million thank yous,
My pleasure.
and really, really love this conversation.
Thank you for what you do. I really appreciate you putting positive info out there.